Hello, digital warriors, and welcome back to the Forge of Unicorn podcast, where we explore the untapped potential of IT departments and the secrets of digital evolution, especially in the field of software development. And today we have a special guest that is one of a kind because Ute Mercker is investment director at IBB Venture. Ute is one of a kind because it's not typical that you found a woman in this field. So, Ute, welcome here. And I'm impressed of your curriculum, Ute, because from my research, are more than 25 years that you are nurturing a high-growth startup, especially in healthcare and technology sector in Berlin. And I would say that you are one of the core entity that is baking up the startup ecosystem in Germany and in Berlin. So nice to have you here as a special guest.
Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure, Ute. Especially, guys, because Ute has some very interesting companies in her portfolio. She had companies that were game changer in the healthcare. I'm really eager to understand from your perspective what drive you to embark on such a journey.
What drives me to embark on such a journey? It's the work with the entrepreneurs and the technologies, to understand the technologies. Usually our founders come from the tech side and they have developed their technology, their platforms, their products in research institutions and the universities like Charité here in Berlin or other research Max Planck institutions or Helmholtz institutions like Max Delbrück Zentrum. And then they, in the healthcare side, usually want to bring this to the patient or into the market, having an impact in their mind. And the combination of use of technology in the healthcare area in order to improve delivery of healthcare or the patient experience or outcome. This is again and again a very interesting field to be involved with.
I'll see it. So, can we say that this startup, these companies that you have managed and helped during these years, they've made a pretty big impact in the healthcare system in Germany. I believe that we can see your touch on the healthcare system in Germany with these companies. Can it be one of your biggest achievements with your passion, helping people in their life and then their healthcare?
Yeah, I was in a way lucky because I was involved in one company who had a platform and in-licensed a drug candidate from a pharmaceutical company. The name of the company was Gerini. It is a while ago. They went public 2005, and they were able to finalize clinical trials for orphan disease, these are diseases where only a few people worldwide are affected. And they were able to have a successful phase 3 trial in Europe, and the drug was approved. And so shortly afterwards, the company was bought by a bigger pharma company named Shire, which is now part of Takeda. And this was the valuation at this point of time was above $300 million. And this was a successful exit for us. And on the other side, there was finally a drug approved into the market for these patients who beforehand had nothing working for them when they had seriously attacks. And this is really something you can be proud of over time. But in the recent future, I've been involved in a company called Selfie. This company was set up in 2016 in order to provide some kind of online support for people with severe depression or anxiety disorders. And I don't know about Italy, but here in Germany, the waiting time for first appointment with a psychologist or therapist is 3 to 6 months. And where there is basically only in very severe cases no direct access to care apart from a depression drug, if it is working. And there were 2 psychologists and 3 female founders. The third founder had already experience in setting up startups and scaling them. They wanted just to provide an easy access to care, combining online tutorials with a weekly call. And this company introduced this first for free, then for self-payers. Then later on, they had selective contracts with health insurance companies here in Berlin or in Germany, covering roughly 20% of the German public secured patient or cohort. And then a new law was introduced in 2019, giving a path to reimbursement for these kind of digital apps. And they used it and brought 5 digital apps which had clinical evidence going through a randomized controlled trial and a high standard of IT security in order to secure the data of the patients, and brought them into the market, into reimbursement. And 10 days ago, we announced the exit of this company, which was acquired by a mid-sized pharma company from the south of Germany, which is the market leader in AHDS in Europe and has last year introduced a drug for depression as well. And they want to offer their patients not only drugs, but apps and further treatments to give them a multimodal approach to treating their condition.
Wow. The impact that you have made is surely tangible on the field. And I love that you have this experience on the healthcare, but also with the IT sector. Because, as you know from the research that we have sent you, what we observe on IT is a bit in stark comparison with the healthcare regulation or a field where there is high ethos and standard. And so the discussion with you today would be really intriguing because indeed, on one side, you have this kind of organization that they were able to have this impact on people with anxiety and depression. That is something that is really connected with our discovery that a lot of people that are working nowadays, they are disengaged or burnout. But on the other, we have the software field that in the last decade we saw a decline of the quality of the software despite having a field like healthcare that is highly regulated. How is your perception of software compared with the products that you have in the healthcare sector, that they have to go undergoing a lot of certification and revision? Isn't software too easy to get deployed without the many checks on quality like the TÜV SUD?
I wouldn't say so. Maybe some background. We jumped in the beginning. Maybe some background for the people who don't know IBB Ventures. We are the federal fund of the state of Berlin, and we have currently a portfolio of roughly 100 companies. Every company needs to be headquartered here in Berlin, and we always co-invest with private investors, and our companies grow from their headquarters here in Berlin everywhere into the world with subsidiaries or joint ventures, whatever fits the business. And I wanted to mention that because why do we invest into digital health? Because Berlin is a strong ecosystem, the second strong ecosystem for startups in Europe. And it is in general, but for healthcare, Berlin and IT, it's a very strong ecosystem as well, because we have research institutions, we have the Charité, the biggest hospital in Europe, We have another local health hospital chain, which is Vivantes, which is owned by the state of Berlin as well. We have private hospitals here. We have the so mentioned research institutions, and we have a strong IT industry here as well, mid-sized. So we have people in this area who have a unique combination of healthcare business, indication business, deep knowledge about the regulation, and IT know-how. So if you want to set up a digital health startup, Berlin, I would say, at least in Germany, is the place to be. And that's why my fund and me and my colleagues, we started to focus roughly 10 years ago into the recent developments, what's going on, and the digitalization of healthcare here in Germany. Compared to other European countries, like, for instance, Denmark, we are behind. We have to say that. But currently, there is a lot going on, like electronic patient record has just been introduced here in Germany. Electronic receipt has been introduced last year into Germany. So there has been a public funding opportunity of 5 billion for the hospitals in order to invest into their IT environment. And there is a strong emphasis on connecting the hospitals with the local practitioner around the corner to break up these silos. And we have set up standards for messaging services. And we have one company in the portfolio who was the first one to have certified messenger. The name of the company is Famitly. So in the hospital, with the local practitioner, B2B to C, like apps like Selfie or others, a lot of innovation is currently coming from IT into the healthcare system of Germany. And there is a regulation in place for a very long time. If it's not a drug, which has its own law, you have CE, which has been changed with the medical device regulation, which has been introduced 3 to 4 years ago, and there's currently a transition period to 2028 when all medical device suppliers and software can be at its own one, but can be part of in connection with the hardware into the new regulation. And there are ISO standards companies have to fulfill if they want to introduce a medical device into the market, which can be a software as well. So these apps, like Selfie, which are reimbursed, they have to be certified according to that standard. And there are risk classes, and there are clear, there are audits happening. So this has already been before and is now, with new regulation, even more evident, a highly regulated business, all to protect the user or the patient. And so I would say this environment from the outside can be or can look like a high market entry burden, but it prevents and distinguished real medical innovation and a real medical-based product from what I would say is a lifestyle product. And especially in the app area, there are a lot of apps in the app stores which can help people in a certain situation with a certain condition. But when it comes to a real medical indication like depression or anxiety disorder, it's a different situation, and only in Germany, only products who are under this regulation and have passed the BfArM approval are going to be reimbursed. And from my point of view, this makes absolutely sense.
Because what I remember was the famous scandal in UK, the NHS, that they lost a lot of patient clinic folder due to a bug. So even in a highly regulated environment, compliance doesn't mean high quality. That is one factor that indeed is something that scares us in the last decade. We saw a lot of highly regulated environment like aviation with the Boeing 737 MAX disaster that was due software. And so software doesn't have, unfortunately, a TUV stamp that can tell us, hey, buddy, this piece of software, this app is certified and you can stay safe and you can stay relaxed using it. That is one of the points that leads us also to the next finding in our research, that is due to this market, and we are talking in a highly regulated environment like healthcare, where life of people is on stake. We can imagine what is outside healthcare in an environment where regulation is almost zero, where people, they go to platform on internet after their job during the evening. For $20 a month, they purchase a training, and then they can apply for being a developer. And we saw this in the past, and we have to screen a lot of them in the work that we have done for other customers, because we have screened more than 100,000 developers in these 2 decades almost. And what we found is that probably due to lack of standards in the market that set the bar of quality very high, we observe that only a very small amount of people, they have the skills to be an engineer, a software engineer. And I'm curious about, is the same problem also in healthcare? Do you observe this problem with your startup in Berlin? How many talents you can find on the market? Because we were able to assess that roughly only 3% of the market, they have skills, technical skills of a real engineer. But then when they start to work in a team, only less than 1%, 0.9% of the population out there that have social and technical skills to work as engineers in a team that is a unicorn. Is this problem something that you witness also in your sector, or is different in healthcare?
I mean, we invest in early stage startups. So disruption and pivots, that is the natural course of business there. So they have to adopt their usually first product and MVP to the market conditions, and they can, in a way, try out as long as it fits the customer. In healthcare, as I already said, there is a clear, there's a kind of clear cutoff point. If you make a medical claim, you are not allowed to bring this product into the market as long as you are not CE labeled. Yeah. And currently this is the new regulation. There are companies who are turning from the older regulation to the new one, but new products all have to pass these new class. And this is startups, if they have not the internal knowledge, they use consultants from the outside, and these consultants usually are working in companies which are certified as well, especially if they work as auditors. Yeah. So there is a quite kind of understanding in trying to regulate these products when they are really targeting, in a way, patient or people with a medical condition, and you make the claim that this is for treating or supporting you with a medical condition. Outside of that, it's based on the customers and your own internal kind of quality process. And part of this regulation in healthcare is the quality management system, part of these ISO certifications. So in this area, and even if you invest outside of IT, everything in healthcare, there is a high amount of awareness not to harm the patient and to have kind of regulation around that. Outside of that, it's with the customer and with pilots that the customer, let's start with a smaller pilot, see how it works. And I think especially when it comes to being integrated in important processes of a customer, or to even have access to internal data, then it really becomes a process of a longer selling situation and going step by step. Yeah, Berlin, we have a lot of universities, so we had a lot of people who graduate and would like to stay and work here, and we have a very high standard. For instance, the TU Berlin, there's a center for artificial intelligence, and I have in my portfolio a startup for where one founder or two founders are from the center in Technical University Berlin, and they have their products are based on an explainable AI, and there was just an paper published in Nature, Artificial Medicine something, or Artificial Intelligence, about the clever Hans effect in AI when the AI is self-learning. So we trust the people that they come from a very good background, and that they are able to adapt their processes to the necessary diligence. But as investors, we have to make sure, for instance, the regulation about data security in Europe, we have to make sure that the founders and companies are aware of that, that they protect the companies with pen tests and everything. So we are trying to keep up with the market as well with the founders, and are discussing these issues around safety, data safety, for instance, constantly with our companies.
Okay, so it confirms our observation indeed that there is a lot of focus on security posture, on quality, on doing stuff in the right way. But also I have studied a lot the TUV, especially the SUV related to softwares, that doesn't have a lot of indicators about how it should be tested, the final product, with testing, with static analysis of the code and other parts related to how the code is delivered in production and to the customer. But there is nothing that is helping people to understand how good looks like. And this is something that is, for me, controversial, because there are a lot of ways to do software and a lot of ways to do it wrong. Only a few ways to do it right. But there is no standard, and also there are universities that are not that aware how software should be built. And this is intriguing, because even these new millennials that in theory they should came from the university with a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of knowledge and data on the latest technology, but not on the way of working. Know how to build software as a team, know how to build software with test-driven development and such. And this is intriguing, that is the status quo of the market. So it would be amazing to help this startup to understand not only to be compliant with the standards and regulations, but also to work in the proper way. And I know that your firm is doing hands-on with this startup. Do you have also departments that are helping IT?
I have colleagues who invest in IT, software technology, and so on, of course. But I can only talk about the healthcare investments, and we take a thorough look at the team, at the background of the team. Usually, sometimes founders are coming direct as graduates. Sometimes they come with experience from other companies. We take a look at that and would like to understand what they have done there. We are taking a look at the product, of course. We're talking to reference customers. So that is that we want to ensure the technical function and probability and the reference from the customers. But what I'm thinking, it is a bit kind of catch-22 in a way, because startups are about disrupting things, and they want to find fast and better solutions. That's what they are aiming at. Yes, and I don't think it's appropriate, and that's why they have customers and mid-size and big companies, because they are faster in adopting to new market environments, market opportunities, and adopting technology. Yeah, for instance, if you look at hospitals, the huge systems, we call it KISS in Germany, which means Hospital Information Systems. This has been a market for 20 years or longer where not much innovation has happened. There has been a few companies offering this kind of closed systems to the hospitals, which made the hospitals, gave them a safe environment, a functioning environment. And in healthcare, safety is above being fast and innovative. Because if safety is not secured, somebody might be harmed. That is the situation. So I would even say there was not a high risk of penetration from the outside maybe 10 years ago, because it was so close up, and even getting access to the API was a challenge. This is changing now, but opening up, that means we have to create secure environments, secure exchange routes like this messenger, certified messenger I already mentioned, in order to secure safety and connect it to innovation. And that's why I must say this, I can understand that pharmaceutical companies or healthcare companies, which are for a reason in a very high regulated market, usually have not been so fast in adopting, especially IT innovation. This, with use of AI, I'm a bit surprised that I see more applications at the moment in healthcare than I see it based on maybe generative AI. Apart from, it's not in the core of the business so far. For instance, in the industrial companies here in southern Germany, they are still trying it out in non-core functions, and I think this is a mix of not being ready for that, because you have to have your data in a applicable state, and that is with different systems and different silos inside a company, and not knowing about, not connecting these informations, a challenge. And on top of it, it is really, I think, risk situation as well. But there is a huge opportunity in supporting these companies and setting up applications for that. And I think this is going, we were going to see this in the this year, next year, because data is core. From my point of view, access to data, to not quantity but quality as well. So the depth is important. Is key, and you have to have it in the right, like a treasure. The treasure needs to be in the right environment that it can be mined, and
Polish and clean.
Absolutely, and I think that is what's happening at the moment. But for me, with my experience, it's really seeing companies from Berlin in our portfolio. We have companies who are already working for pharmaceutical companies, who already have customers from practitioners, radiologists, who are using their AI based products. And this is not what I would have expected for the healthcare industry. But maybe it's what I talked about. It's usually image data. a lot of it. So this can be with annotation easily made brought to use for an algorithm. But I've just learned that the Siemens Healthineers, again, the healthcare part or spin-off from Siemens has the most patents in artificial intelligence in Germany. So this is supporting this interesting observation about the use of AI in healthcare as a supportive tool in areas where the big data, it's just too much data, or where there are not enough medical experienced staff anymore. So you need to use any potential support or means to keep up the function of the practice, the hospital, whatever. Or you want to be faster, like pharma. You want to be faster, shorten time to market for a drug candidate, or find new targets or candidates or validate them. That's which is a huge cost factor in drug development.
It doesn't surprise me that Gen AI is so impactful on healthcare, especially because in the past I was looking to become a doctor. So I have decent knowledge about the journey to become a doctor. Then, unfortunately, I aborted at the beginning for the IT career. But becoming a doctor is not an easy process, and the number of doctors worldwide are not growing at the same speed of the number of the population. So Gen AI is providing knowledge that start to become democratic worldwide to help people to become a better doctor because they have experience that is borrowed from other fields. And so I'm impressed more on the speed of the adoption. This is something that absolutely I echo you. And also, I love the point that you were saying about startups. They are disruptive by nature. But from the data that we have, and this is something that make us really sad, startups are typically young people full of passion and energy that they go and build their product, or they try to do it. Then, if they are lucky, they find firms like yours so that they can provide them help with funds and also with hands-on experience on governance and board. But the point is that because the market, IT market, software development, doesn't know how good looks like, or they don't want to know the market, because for selling product is easier than selling way of working. The market has a tendency to onboard in a company mediocre developers. And so what we see are gorgeous startups that in seed and pre-seed, they are really promising. But then when they start to scale, they start to onboard so many people that are below the quality that they need to grow to as a unicorn, that the companies start to go like a plateau toward a mediocrity environment. Is this something that you have observed in some of the startups that you have in your portfolio or in your company? And if not, how you fight the mediocrity anti-pattern?
I would say it is at the moment. I cannot say that I have observed it. I have more observed people who really want to keep up with the market, and they want to still be connected maybe to the university or research institute where they have been trained, keeping up this connection, keeping up with the latest development there and adopting that into their products if that is possible. But as a startup, this is and this is totally depending on the funding situation. As a startup, you have to scale the product into the market. It is, of course, when you have a tech investment, like in healthcare, like this company we have in pathology, who are currently developing a foundation model for that and are keeping up with their competitors in the US. name of the company is Agnostics. You want to keep up with the high standard, but you have to juggle that with the what is necessary for the product. If you have a lot of high quality people, they have fantastic ideas about where you can go, what you can develop, and this is not always what the market needs at this point of time. And on top of it is what you say, quality management, quality layers, and developing the best product. But a startup is in a tough spot with a financing, which is never enough until the company is profitable. But this is how the company is steering their own business. Yeah. If you want to grow fast, you might always spend more. And then if you want to go profitable, usually startups don't want to go profitable. They want to scale. So there is always the question, where do we invest the capital we have to show progress? And you have a very strong approach on quality of software engineering, but this is maybe not what would bring in a certain situation the company to the next value enhancing step. There might be other goals they need to reach, market goals, customer goals, milestones in developed corporations. So the startup management team always has to make a judgment call. What is the critical path and how can we reach it? And what is the critical resource and how can we will invest? Because the company needs to move forward, needs to grow or to show progress. And so this is a tough call. But this is what when you're founding a startup, what you bring yourself, the world you bring yourself into, and you have to manage that. That's the situation. And that's why in my area, healthcare, the outside regulation gives you a clear situation, what you have to show in order to come into the market. And pharma companies, if they collaborate with startups, they have their own due diligence process. They have a twofold process. They have platforms where you just, for smaller pilots, but if you really want to become a core partner, signing a master service agreement with them, you go through a really tough, diligent process because they have to protect the environment of the pharmaceutical company, physical, but digital as well. So if it is necessary, there is a diligent process for a startup and they have to pass it in order to become a partner, to work together with these companies and like that, that's the situation.
And, this is exactly what scares me looking at the data, because not all the companies, not all these startups have the luck to work with venture capital like yours, that you put the hands on with this startup. Because the data are providing us that only 2.5% of the startups are able to become unicorns. That is a very small number. Also, what we are observing is that due to all this, let's call bureaucracy or compliance in an highly regulated environment, a lot of startups, they spend more money following and chasing the process than working in the right way because nobody is able to help them. And this is something that makes us really sad, because when we see students into the software craftsmanship dojo, we see that all of them, they have a lot of potential, but almost nobody of them knew when they came into the dojo how good software looks like. And this is a tough call indeed, because if we can help this company to understand that software built in the right way is 10 times faster and cheaper, they will have a lot less trouble with compliances and bureaucracy to find funds and to find partners. But this is life, I guess.
Yes, and I would say the unicorn question, there are a lot of things we can say about that. The first question is, having more and more unicorns, what does it tell us? A lot of money in the market, increasing valuations because there has been a lot of money in the market. We are currently in an environment where these kind of valuations are corrected in the downwards direction, which is challenging for the startup and for the investors as well. For me, becoming a unicorn, it's not defined. It's just a negotiation between the investor and the company. And we can just look at the stock market and see that the valuations are having an up and down. Even companies who are for a very long time in business experience this up and down of their stock price. So, and from my personal point of view, the unicorn question, why we maybe have not so many in Europe, has to do with later stage financing and has to do with the missing of a European technology market where later stage companies are able to list and financing via the capital markets and not only from venture capital investors, which would really be an advantage for the European tech startups or grown-ups or growth companies to have access to an experienced stock market who is able to value different areas like healthcare, like biotechnology, like IT startups, B2B, B2C, and so on. And has investment banks, has analysts who are able to judge these kind of companies when they are coming to the capital market. This is clearly an advantage the US market has with the Nasdaq. And we all know not every European company can list at the Nasdaq. And it would be really an advantage for our own tech ecosystem. And in the current geopolitical environment, maybe we should make more effort in that direction to have a European tech stock market in order to give these companies access to capital, that they can grow, that they can become unicorns, and that they have the means in order to improve their processes, like what you would like to see.
Yes, and working with a lot of US companies, observe also that the regulation and laws that are around Europe, they are very different than the regulation in US. US is, I don't want to say easier because it seems reductive, but it's more easier than in Europe to get founded. And related to the point of the unicorn that you were telling at the beginning, yeah, I don't know if having more unicorns is healthy. There is a good book that Techno-feudalism from Professor Varoufakis, is the Greek Ministry of Economy, I guess. That has an intriguing point of view on what is becoming the market when it's full of unicorns on technical side. It's interesting food of thought.
I don't think that there is not enough capital available in Europe. It's not distributed into the tech startup growth ups. That's an issue. There have been in the past years, the German government has tried to set up a facility for funds, for fund of funds, so that there is more later stage capital available. And the EU, and I know France, they're on the same path in order to facilitate, like the EIC, European Innovation Council, to facilitate grants and co-investment for companies. Because we all know deep tech companies who need more time to develop from the basic research to the product which can be available to the market. They need longer time and more capital, and not usually a fund is for 10 years, and that is not a fitting time frame. And that's why in my point of view, and I've been around these capital markets around end of the 90s, beginning of 2000s here in Germany. And I know I hear this for a very long time that everything is easier in the US. It's partly true. Venture capital is longer in the business there, and with the access to the capital market, which is not always there at the moment, I think the capital market is not in the best condition for an IPO. Even the Nasdaq, it's very volatile, and this is not the best time. You don't want to IPO in a volatile market, because the market can just beat you down, and you have to sit and wait then. So this is not the best, and I haven't seen a lot of IPOs in the US. So this is a natural path. We say IPO window is it's opening up, not opening, it's closed. In the beginning, when it starts to open, it's more risk averse. So companies who are more later stage have shown more progress, maybe in the clinical stages and in healthcare or in the market, than the ones who are IPO, and later it goes more down to the companies who are not as far developed. But the venture capital IPO startup environment in the US is a different one compared to Europe, but it's not everywhere. In healthcare, it's definitely biotech. It's Boston. This is the center of the universe. We all know about Silicon Valley, and there are some other spots, but there are a lot of blind spots in the US as well. And the investors are centered around these ecosystems as well. So if you are not located there, can be challenging too to get funding like it is here in Europe. Yeah, and it's a different. A founder has to understand it's a different kind of venture capital.
Yes, it is.
With regards to the team, to valuations, they might be more risk lovers as long as you scale. But as a founder, it's you have to understand how the US investors are playing the game, so to say. It's not like we know it here in Europe. If you love that, it's clear.
You say that's right. It's a different kind of investment. Yes. The bureaucracy, the speed, the attitude, the outcome that they reach. Yes. You said it. It's different. It's different.
But the expectations are different too.
Very different. Yes. Working with them and working with European funds is you see the different behavior in their investment. Yes, absolutely.
But I've been involved in a company we brought end of the 90s. They went to Dallas. They were invested by US investors. You see the long time experience the partners have, and how they support the companies, but you see what is happening if the performance is not there. And as a founder, it's clearly to understand in the end, it's not you won't have such a high percentage of shareholding in the US compared to Europe. That's clear. And I always like to connect founders who have had this experience as founders who did not have the experience, just to understand what kind of different culture it is. And then it's just somebody has to make a decision. Do I want to go down there? Then I would going to try it, or do I want to have a higher percentage in my company and have more influence and impact there? It depends. But we have to be, for me, what I want to say is it's too easy to say everything it's easier, faster, and better in the US.
It's different. I guess the word is different. Yes, yes. But speaking of the which, different. Did you see any difference in people in the last 2 decades regarding what we were talking at the beginning, anxiety, depression? Because what we start to observe is that a lot of people nowadays, they are really burnout and disengaged. And it's the same also in healthcare. It's the same also in Berlin, or is different?
I think that's a general situation and trend we are observing in Germany, I would say in Europe, in the US. So it's, and there are, from my point of view, multiple points to mention there. First thing is, until the pandemic, I would say conditions like depression, anxiety, have been in a kind of taboo or shame zone. So it might have been there, but people were not, didn't feel comfortable talking about that. And this is the good outcome, one of the good outcomes of the pandemic. These conditions are not in this shame zone anymore. There, people are can talk about it, can say that's my condition, and burnout in a way is there's a discussion, but burnout in Germany, we have a word for it, which is it means you are depressed because you are so low on energy and I just you are overwhelmed by the overall situation. So it is considered partly part of depression, and symptoms can be the same. So one thing is we know more about it because it's people are now not afraid anymore to talk about it. Next point is we have to understand that the digitalization of our daily routine has an impact as well. Social media, constantly being connected, constantly the brain, it's hearing ping or whatever. This has an impact on the general well-being. Especially, I mean, there is so much research in social media, how social media is constant comparing with real or unreal pictures, videos, situations shown there. This has an impact on the well-being of people. They are comparing themselves to something which might not even be real, but or is happening on another continent. So, and this, I would make the hypothesis that your and my brain is different from a brain of somebody who is 15 years old or 20 years old. Because when our brain developed as a young person, these technical tools have not been around. There was no social media apart from the people in your close in university, school, wherever you have been. So this is different because the brain is developing from the environment and from the incentives it is receiving centrally. So I think this has an impact too. And in general, with the use of digital tools, software, like we just have video call, email, the expected response time has shortened substantially. And I think that is a kind of stress for people as well, in the business environment as well as in the private environment. Yes. So there's a pressure to respond, and this doesn't leave enough room to maybe judge, to think about it. And this is there's an overload of information and triggers, and I would count that in the overall picture as well. And that's why this has changed. The environment has changed. The influence has changed, but it doesn't mean that we cannot make a decision, especially in the private area, but in the business area as well, how fast we need to respond and to in a way to tune out from time to time for our own better quality, for our own processing of things, and in a way making better decisions as well.
Yes, I see the point. Indeed, I remember in our youth, we were replying still with the postcard, and it was a week or 2 weeks of delay between the letter that you were sending to your girlfriend. Yeah, now it's matter of seconds.
Yeah. In a way, yeah, and it can be too much, but the human condition is adopting. But sometimes it's good to make a step back and think, should I just leave it for a moment and think about it, or just ignore it for a while because it's just too much at the moment, and maybe I will give a better response. I will have a better outcome when I just take my time.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I ask you a question? Since you put such a high emphasis on the quality of software engineering and development, what is your expectation, and what kind of impact do you see that with generative AI, which is coding? That is really the use case? What I've heard and read, that this is really where people see a high impact in the future, that people who used to code software will not do this anymore because the AI is better than that. Now, you coming with the high quality approach of software development, what can be done?
So I have a article that I release in my newsletter. I will link here below in the description so that people can reach it. But the latest research after 2 years of embracing generative AI to do coding, they are really scaring. So Gen AI is not able to code like a proper software engineer. Is very far from that. Is very far from even being able to mimic the performance of freelancer in platforms like Upwork with normal tasks, so nothing super complicated. So they did an experiment to try to reach 1 million of tasks as money in a human side with managers and developers, and on GenAI. GenAI on management task was able to reach something like 46% of accuracy. With development, simple development task, 23%. Then there are other research that are looking at how code quality is moving from 2 years ago to now with the use of GenAI. And since embracing GenAI as a driver, not as a copilot, as it should be, the quality of code has marked that in refactoring, so improving the quality of the code internally, they are moving down. And in markers like copy, paste, and duplication, they are spiking up. So GenAI is creating new codes instead of improving the old one. And this means when you have a code base and you need to add a feature, GenAI most probably will create a completely new piece of software instead of creating an architecture that is fully integrated. In long term, you have a patchwork like a Frankenstein. And on software, this means that the average time to live of an enterprise application nowadays is roughly 10 years. With GenAI, it will be a lot shorter.
So what can be done if you are, for instance, in a startup, you want to be fast, you want to use the best tools? What is your advice to startup CTO? How to integrate?
Thank you for the question. You say that it right, integrate. So what I witness that is working after a lot of experiments with customer, with our coaches, with experts, is what we call the hybrid model. So having not developers, but upskilled developers that are really software engineers, modern software engineers, as we call them, and pair them with tools like GenAI, but they are tools to enhance the human potential of an engineer. So first of all, we need to upskill with programs like the Software Craftsmanship Dojo or similar people to become engineers. So they need to understand how to architect, design, develop, but development in a user centricity way. Because the point is, if you are a startup and you are not able to create the right product, you close the shop. But if you are able to create the right product, but then when you deliver, the quality of the product is not the right one, you close the shop again. It's a equilibrium. It's like scale where on one side you have to be with a good product design team, and on the other side you have to be with a good quality on the software engineer. And then you have a startup that is able to go full speed. With investor like you, this is the nirvana of a startup.
It sounds like these co-pilot model in a way which we have seen in healthcare, where companies like in our portfolio Mediere or Vara, where the AI is supporting the radiologist in the evaluation of the image and writing in the end the decision. So that is what you were proposing in the coding environment as well.
Yes, he's the doctor with the doctor experience that knows what he has in front of him. Plus, the AI is able to get data from other use cases and provide the doctor with suggestions. But it's the doctor in charge of the anamnesy, not AI telling you that you have to take this kind of pills or this kind of drug. The doctor did the oath of Hippocrates. And the Gen AI didn't.
Yeah, we are talking currently diagnostics. It's not there. I've heard about cases where from diagnostics to therapeutics, but there might be breaks in the process, but especially in diagnostics, supporting it to make it better.
Yes. And I love the idea of supporting decision instead of therapy. Because the doctors, they went and undergo a path of study with an ethic and an ethos and the values that they preserve life.
Yeah.
The moment Gen AI will be able to do the Hippocrates oath and doing all the stuff that a doctor is capable to do, then I would say Gen AI is really not anymore. Gen AI is something that is evolved to what it is now.
Yeah, but that's I'm at the moment I don't see that, and I see for the doctor, it's really there's such a huge amount of data out there, and there is a huge amount of research going on, and to have that filtered in your decision to get the information from the broad maybe database the hospital has, which can be accessed and filtered in your decision, I think, and even usually in pharma you don't want to have a one center trial. You want to have a multi-center trial because clinical care has differences and you want to show in different centers the same outcome in a way. And that is, I see the advantage of incorporating a huge amount of data, broad and in quantity, in the decision of a doctor who would not have access to that on his own in his hospital or practice.
That is one of the other problems of the actual model of Gen AI, that a lot of this data are synthetic data, are not polished data that are real cases. But we can talk for hours, I guess.
But that's I think in the moment that's from the companies we have in the portfolio. I haven't heard about synthetic data. They are in a situation where they have access to real data from patients and can use it.
Yes. But I guess, as I said at the beginning, I love to have you here, and I see the time is slept out of our fingers. meaning that the discussion was really enjoyable. And healthcare is one sector that I love very much because it's with high standards of quality, because there is people life on the table. And so, good. Ute, what to say? It was a pleasure to have this discussion with you.
Likewise.
Thank you. And I hope to see you in Berlin soon, hopefully.
Me too. Me too. Spring is coming. Always the best time to be here. It's spring.
I will jump on the motorbike and I will come to taste a pretzel and a beer.
Wonderful. Let me know when you're in town.
Yes, absolutely. Good. Thank you so much. Listener, thank you. I hope that the session of today was really enjoyable for all of you. And please remember, you know the mantra, stop transforming, start evolving, because it's in the evolution that we can move in the right direction with ease and well-being, as we understood today with Ute. Ute, again, thank you and see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.